Scuderia Ferrari has been at the center of several controversies during the latest round of the 2024 Formula One season. We discussed this yesterday, as it was inevitable, trying to provide an interpretation of the events. Without a doubt, Charles Leclerc emphasized the tone of his reasoning regarding the pre-planned race tactics in the Las Vegas Grand Prix. These are strategies discussed during the usual Sunday morning briefings, a moment when various scenarios are hypothesized, offering solutions to specific hypothetical contexts. A useful approach to have the right plans to follow, depending on what happens. The drivers are required to adhere to these guidelines unless specific edge cases arise that might create problems. For Charles Leclerc, his Maranello teammate did not respect what had been agreed upon at the table, and for this reason, his fury was unleashed on the team radio, unfiltered, regarding the overtaking after the final pit stop. Aggravating the situation is Carlos Sainz's repeated behavior, according to the Monegasque, as this is not the first time he has disobeyed team orders. Hence, yet another very heated controversy arises, and unfortunately, the two seem eager to part ways apparently. 4 seasons of coexistence should not escalate into internal conflict at such a crucial moment, when finally, after decades spent watching others win, Ferrari has the chance to fight for something concrete. Putting personal results ahead of the Maranello teams, even unintentionally, would be highly detrimental to the most glorious team in Formula One history. Ferrari team principal Frederic Vasseur is working hard on this. In recent days, he has called his drivers together to calm things down. His request, highly appropriate, can be summarized in a phrase that perfectly conveys the idea: maintain group cohesion until the Abu Dhabi finish line. Then, everyone goes their separate ways. Beyond this, there is an interesting fact regarding McLaren's car number 4. Between laps 30 and 40 of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, an alarm was triggered concerning Lando Norris's engine. The Briton was forced to short shift and lift and coast to lower the car's operating temperatures, all within a context where the temperature was very low. If some components are nearing the end of their life cycle, a penalty could be triggered, which would help the Italian side in the constructors' battle. In the past 24 hours, further controversy has erupted regarding Carlos Sainz's conduct in another instance. This concerns the third stint, where the 2 Ferrari cars caught up with and overtook Max Verstappen, securing 3rd and 4th positions. Many have speculated that the Spaniard implemented a strategy in his favor, a move to benefit himself and by default, hold off his teammate during the final laps of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. For this reason, we decided to recount the dynamics so that every fan can form their own opinion on the matter. Naturally, we will share our perspective based on the unfolding of events. The analysis considers 7 laps, from 41 to 48, during which the Spaniard, according to the accusation, supposedly lifts off the throttle in turn 10 to slow down. First of all, it should be noted that Riccardo Adami, the Spaniard's race engineer, opened the radio on lap 40 with a clear message, namely, earlier lift into 10 to keep the front sliding. It was, therefore, the pit wall that instructed him to lift off, intending to avoid putting excessive stress on the SF24's left front tire. With this clarified, let's move to lap 41. Carlos Sainz overtakes Max Verstappen at the end of the lap, on the straight leading to turn 14. At that moment, the tires on car number 55 had good surface temperature or tread. On the following lap, the Spaniard is instructed to switch to SOC 7 mode, a move aimed at more efficient recharging and gaining additional energy from the motor generators on high-speed stretches. Meanwhile, the Red Bull driver stays close to the Ferrari with a gap of about 0.8 seconds, benefiting from the drag reduction system. Lap 43, Carlos Sainz complains that his battery pack is drained. In reality, the Maranello pit wall reassures him that everything is normal since the car is progressively storing energy, and the slightly slower speed in Sector 3 compared to Max Verstappen is a calculated trade-off. On the next lap, lap 44, there is another radio exchange with Riccardo Adami. This time, the Italian asks his driver to improve his pace to shake off the Dutch talent. Carlos Sainz claims he is trying and he succeeds as the gap at the start of Sector 3 grows to 1.1 seconds, preventing Max Verstappen from using DRS. The compliments of his Ferrari race engineer follow. However, the slipstream helps the 4-time Formula One world champion close back in on the Ferrari's rear. On lap 45, Carlos Sainz notes a factor, in his exact words: "If I improve my pace, then on the next lap, I'm slower and also open up graining." Observing the steering wheel dashboard, the tire temperatures are no longer as optimal as before. Riccardo Adami then suggests using the engine braking more to assist the SF24's rotation. On lap 46, Carlos Sainz finally manages to put 1.5 seconds between himself and Max Verstappen. During this lap, he continues lifting off at turn 10, as instructed by the team. We now arrive at the fourth to last lap, where Riccardo Adami communicates George Russell's pace and orders a fuel-saving mapping. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc overtakes Max Verstappen, who can no longer use Carlos Sainz's DRS. From this moment on, in the remaining 3 laps without being instructed, the Spanish driver decides on his own to stop lifting off at turn 10, a section where Brian Bozzi suggests Charles Leclerc switch to the usual race sock mode. However, the Monegasque, annoyed, insists that the mapping he is using for battery charge and discharge is perfect, as it allows him more power to use on the straights. Additionally, with some irony, he adds, "Don't worry, I'll bring the car home." Even on laps 49 and 50, Carlos Sainz doesn't lift off in turn 10. One might think he was trying to catch Lewis Hamilton, who was over 6 seconds ahead and therefore unreachable in 3 laps. In reality, the goal was to keep Charles Leclerc from closing in, which is not inherently wrong. In conclusion, here's our opinion on the events. Most likely, at least regarding this specific factor analyzed, namely the behavior of the Spaniard after overtaking Max Verstappen, it seems Carlos Sainz did not act improperly. Some have speculated that, as in Singapore 2023, Carlos Sainz intentionally kept the Dutchman in tow to disadvantage Charles Leclerc. However, listening to the radio communications, the reason for not going full throttle in turn 10 is evident. This is despite the fact that from the moment Charles Leclerc overtakes Max Verstappen, no one from the pit wall instructs Carlos Sainz to increase his pace. The uproar surrounding the 22nd weekend of the 2024 Formula One season therefore appears to stem from tension. This being said, it is undeniable that Riccardo Adami does inform Carlos Sainz of Charles Leclerc's pit exit, but the phrase, "do not put him under pressure," comes as the Spaniard is already making the overtaking move on the Monegasque driver. In hindsight, everything has been discussed behind closed doors. According to information reported by the Italian media, despite a heated meeting, there is a shared willingness to put it all behind and focus on the future. After all, there's still a Constructors' Championship to fight for in the final 2 rounds of the 2024 Formula One campaign. In just a few days, the cars will return to the track at the 5.419-kilometer Lusail International Circuit for the Qatar Grand Prix, a round that unfortunately is expected to favor McLaren rather than Ferrari, which means the Italian side will need to perform at its best to be able to take the battle to the final round of the season, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix at the 5.281-kilometer Yas Marina circuit on Yas Island.